The difficulty of a toxic relationship. I, F49, have been married to my husband, M49, for over 30 years. I always acted like I was happy, that everything was great, but when I was in private, I emotionally broke down all the time because my marriage was extremely toxic. I was not raised in the even slightly better houses, being constantly surrounded by alcohol and drug abuse. I spent the first 18 years of my life constantly dealing with physical and emotional trauma. I jumped at the chance to get married and try to be free of being surrounded by that when I was 18 years old. I would tell everyone how great I felt, how good everything was, but when in reality my marriage was anything but good. My husband was a wonderful man for the first 3 years of our lives. It really turned 21 and started drinking. He quickly became a raging alcoholic, always venting his screaming and yelling at me, while punching holes in walls and car windshields. There were occasions where the abuse for me would become physical, but I would convince my mind that it was partially my fault, if not completely my fault. About 13 years ago, he had a heart attack. He would have died had I not tricked him again into the car, and I drove to the house. For the next 2.5 years after the heart attack, our marriage was wonderful. He had quit drinking and went back to the man I hit first fall in love with. He never sought help for the things that led him to wanting to dream. So he eventually went back to heavy drinking and became a raging alcoholic again. 6 years ago, I had injuries that left me with major spinal damage, which caused disabilities where I could no longer work. I became completely dependent not only for some physical help from my husband, but all financial support. Last month, he decided to be heavily drunk all weekend, causing me a lot of emotional stress for the first 24 hours of that weekend. I decided I was going to try and go hang out with somebody else for a couple of days, but that got prevented when he found out everything, started trying to pick fights with me, and then ultimately got mad and attacked me from behind. His attack was directly opposite of where my injury from that caused me to be disabled is. I had no choice but to have him arrested and realized at that moment that I needed to protect myself and place a restraining order on him. This left me financially destitute. I am now mentally struggling because my mind is deciding to play back the entire 30 years of marriage, which is now bringing up every single time he physically or emotionally hurt me. My mind is now playing back the time where he grabbed my throat and then punched the windshield, the time where he was screaming at me and decided to punch a different vehicle that we owned windshield, the time where he hit me so hard I hit the ground and he stood over me telling me to get up, that you didn't give me that hard, the time where we're in the laundry room and he picked up at me and caused me to have severe pain in my abdomen. He didn't know that during that latter time I was pregnant. I had to go to the doctor where I found out that one of the babies is already dead and the other was dying. I obviously lost that baby, but it was really no different than the total of 9 pregnancies I've had, resulting in a total of 11 babies that I would have had close to my heart and are gone from this earth. I got tired of being told that nobody would give a damn about me, that I am a stupid C-word, and that I am fing lazy, which is rather hard to do when one of your legs does not like to work. You know, where back is destroyed, your cervical spine is destroyed, your left arm barely works, and you barely manage to hold your bladder in. You get left on your own, with no financial support, and your vehicle, it seems as if he purposely kept the registration out to where you could not drive the vehicle and were reliant on climbing up into a vehicle that was hard to get into. And I was not able to drive due to how the driver's area was set up. My vehicle, which has several years of registration due, was not only very easy for me to get in and out of, but I had zero issues being able to drive it. I could go out and be around other people, not feeling isolated and hopeless. It really sucks now being left with a mobility scooter being your only mode of transportation, and you live out in the country. People get tired of having you constantly calling, asking them to take you here, there, and everywhere, which is great when they offer or agree when asked, but you could tell that people are tired of doing it already. The other thing that sucks about the situation is when the landlord also happens to be your husband's best friend, and is now essentially harassing you because you placed the restraining orders on their buddy, and nobody can't come to me. It really sucks when they are wrongfully trying to evict you. Asserting their reason for eviction is something that you have visual proof that they are lying, and then come find out that your husband is trying to arrange to move back in if his buddy manages to force me out. It sucks when you go to court to try to deal with getting that permanent restraining order, and getting the financial support that's requested in that order, but the order is postponed to protect their rights for their criminal side of the situation. Where is the protection of those rights for the victim? Why is it so hard to get the help needed? Or to find a place where a abused, disabled woman can find to safely go, especially with having her dog that has been her only protection and support? Why won't shelters ask the other people to volunteer to take one of the available tops? I obviously cannot want to talk about, and the shelters have a policy where bad selection is first come, first serve. Does it take so much work and pressure to get a victim a lawyer to help them navigate everything, but just hands right over the excellent every advantage? At what point do you finally feel like everything's going to be okay, when in reality you just want to put your dog safely outside and set your place on fire and lay on your bed you just burn down with it? Why is it that the only way you can get financial assistance is if you have kids? Why is it made so difficult to apply and get approved for permanent disability? Why is everything stacked against the victim? People should open their eyes to see that there are people who are homeless simply because those resources did not come to them to help them in a timely manner, and once they became homeless wasn't available at all? At what point is everything going to crash around me and I become one of those homeless people, living on my mobility scooter with my dog next to me? The emotional stress my dog was put under during all the situations always bothered me. Her panting and Violet shaking yet sitting right in front of me tried to protect mommy but wanting to love on her daddy? There's no possible way that I will let him get anywhere near her and risk him taking her from me, since we have been 24-hour companions, while at home 7 days a week, since she was a puppy. She goes and lays at the gate looking for me when I'm gone for a while. If my mobility scooter is left right by the gate, she refuses to leave laying next to it. My dog is so smart that she taught herself decompression therapy and now lays her body across my entire body in an attempt to calm me down. She also will not leave my side, unless I'm gone at appointments or something. Since all of this began, I just am searching for myself, the person I used to be, the person who was happy and buried her emotions so deep that they weren't running through her head nonstop. I want to be the woman who loves herself, values herself, and doesn't feel like all the hope is gone.